in to the hottest station on the planet.
Resistance is futile. The revolution has begun.
You're listening to Rebelpreneur Radio, helping you break the rules and build the business you need for the life you want. And now, broadcasting his pirate signal
from somewhere beyond the status quo,
here's your host, best-selling author, marketing and media strategist, Ralph Brogdon.
Hello and welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio, the show that helps you build the business you need so you can live the life you want. I'm Ralph Brogdon. Have you ever tried to start a business or run your business and say, I wish when I was growing up, I had the role models and the mentors and the examples to follow to give me some basic life skills for success. And you feel like that you're having to learn everything all over again. Well, there is an organization that actually helps youth as well as parents and adults and teachers to develop those skills. And so I want to welcome to the show Tabitha May-Tolub. She is a 20-year veteran in the field of youth leadership development. She holds degrees in psychology and education from Clark University, as well as graduate education from University of Massachusetts in Boston. She is the CEO and co-founder of Roots and Wings, an organization empowering youth and adults to strengthen their character and identity, connect with others through deeper communication, and effect change in their community. Tabitha, welcome to Rebelpreneur Radio.
Thank you, Ralph. I'm very excited to be chatting with you today.
I am really glad to have you, and I want to dig into what you do and how you empower youth and adults, giving them these skills that are so important. But before we get into what you do, first, give us a little background. How did you get started in this area of youth leadership development, and what got you interested in it?
Wow. Okay. So that's a big story, but I'll keep it short. So I think youth leadership development has been my passion, I think, since I was a youth. I was sort of an unlikely leader in middle school and high school and had the benefit of having some really incredible mentors kind of look deep inside and pull some stuff out of me. So I think my passion for doing that with young people has been there since then. I think some of the most amazing young people I've met have flown under the radar for a long time. So that's where that started, for sure. And then I've been able to make a career of it, which is pretty exciting.
Well, you have received extensive professional and experiential training in many areas: communication, mentorship, diversity engagement, peer mediation, leadership development, facilitation, civil discourse, anti-bias. Just on and on the list goes. So you were definitely qualified. We are in the zone of genius right now with your area of expertise. All
right, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, why not? Yeah. Just own it. Is there an age where we should begin thinking about developing and nurturing youth for leaders? Is it something that is emergent in a young age, or is there an age where you kind of see the gift, you see the potential there? Is there a certain age point?
Well, I think part of the answer to that is really thinking about our definition of leadership. There's sort of an old school version of leadership, which is there are leaders and then there are followers, and we need to identify the leaders and cultivate them, and everyone else will kind of go along for the ride. And I think our version of leadership is what are those unique gifts and talents that you have, and how can we develop those and help you focus on them? And then how do we help you collaborate and engage with others who have different skills and talents to create a team that can then collaboratively solve these big problems and small problems that we need to solve? So I think with that definition of leadership in mind, I think there's never too early an age to really look at a child and kind of try to figure out who they really are and what unique talents they bring to the world and how can they share those with others, and kind of cultivate that.
I like that. Now, is leadership, or are leaders born or are leaders made? And can anyone be a leader?
Well, so I think, again, if you're looking at that definition of there's leadership in all of us, which is what I truly believe, and I think is probably the common shared view of leadership at this point, I think there's just different kinds of leaders. Are we all destined to stand up in a room full of hundreds of people and get everyone excited about something? Definitely not.
Right.
And I think, one of the things that we're really good at and really passionate about is finding those unlikely leaders, cultivating introverted leaders, and really saying there's many ways to lead, and we need those different ways. People are led in different ways, so we need different kinds of leaders. And I think there's something really empowering about seeing yourself as a leader or having someone that you care about say, you know what, there's leadership in you. How can we cultivate that? I think is powerful and important. And again, when we're really talking about our kind of leadership, which is really identity-based leadership and collaborative leadership and service leadership, then anyone has the potential to use their gifts to lead.
I really love that definition. And that is so superior and better than the typical stereotype of a leader, type A personality, gung-ho, up at the front of the room, up on the platform. And I really like that you mentioned introverted leadership because that's me.
Me too, believe it or not.
Yeah. So not everyone is leading from the front. Some are leading from the back. And it's a different style, but it's not necessarily one that our society cultivates. We tend to look to political people and CEOs of major corporations and define them as leadership. I really like that you have broadened that. And with that understanding of cultivating and service, anybody can really benefit from learning these skills.
Absolutely.
So that's what's exciting to me about what you do. Tell us a little bit more about who you help. Are there certain people that you would consider ideal to benefit from this? Who do you work with?
Sure. So our market is really youth from middle school through college and university, as well as the adults who care about them, support them. So parents, teachers, administrators, community members, and really any school or community organization that's looking to build some skills to create more caring, cohesive, and collaborative environments. That's pretty much who we're looking at. Again, the bulk of our work is with middle, high school, and college, and the adults that are connected to that. That's a real hot ground for cultivating these skills because they're in the mix and they are in each other's faces every day. And so it's really, there's a deep need to find ways to work together and move forward together. So that's who we're looking for, and that's who we've had success in supporting.
It's such a critical time in life. Why don't schools teach this? Why doesn't the middle school, the high school, even I would think the first year of college, you would at least benefit from some basics in these areas. Why don't schools teach this?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, and I think many of them do in different ways. I think that some of the challenges are time and resources. I mean, we know how tight our school days are for teachers and for administrators. We know how tight the budgets are. We know how stretched our teachers are. Schools are trying to bring this up. I know particularly in Massachusetts where we do a lot of work, schools are really being supported and evaluated on their ability to increase social emotional learning and cultural competency. So they're trying, but there's limited time, there's limited resources. And I think also it's hard when you're in the trenches to really be able to pull back and have these conversations. This stuff takes time, and it takes reflection, and it takes discomfort, and that can not always be something that people want to tackle. Yeah. I think one of our business values is really that there are great things happening. There's just not enough time and resources. So what we try to do is not necessarily compete with anyone else or go in and fix schools that don't need to be fixed. What we do is go in and say, how can we add value? What are you already doing that's working? What are some of your challenges? And how can we kind of support you?
Yeah, I really like that approach. And it makes a lot of sense. Time and resources, it's limited. And they don't, the school system, education, they don't really specialize in this targeted skill development one-on-one with people. That's your area of expertise. And so it makes sense, I think, for you to come alongside and add value. I totally understand that and get it. The name of your organization is Roots and Wings, and that's based on a quote. Explain the concept, the philosophical background of the name, Roots and Wings.
Sure. Well, I am and always have been since I was a young leader, a quoteaholic. I love finding wisdom in other people's words. And the quote has been a favorite of mine forever. And when we began to launch Roots and Wings, it just seemed to fit. This idea that these are the two things youth need, but also all human needs to be awesome, which is we need to know who we are. We need to know where we come from. We need to know how that impacts how we operate in the world, and we need to be really honest about it. And then we need the skills and confidence to engage with others who are different and to solve the challenges that are facing our communities, our schools, and our world. And so those two umbrellas of Roots and Wings seem to be a perfect fit for the kind of work that we were hoping to do.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the quote is Henry Ward Beecher. There are two lasting bequests we can hope to give our children. One of these is roots, the other wings. Very cool. So,
beautiful, right?
Yeah. So according to your website, Roots is the identity and confidence, what you just said, and knowing who we are and where we come from. And the wings represents the skills necessary to navigate and create positive change in a global world. So you've got both. And I just thought that's neat. I'd never heard that quote. And that immediately kind of impacted me to say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That is what our kids need. You work with a lot of different kids, different ages, different backgrounds. You're trying to help them to become more skilled in effecting change in their community. What would you say is the biggest challenge, the biggest hindrance or problem that you frequently have to encounter with the people, the kids, the students, even the parents that come to you for help?
So I think there's a couple challenges. I think the biggest challenge is that we tend to not be able to differentiate between understanding and acceptance. So we have this sense that if we work hard to understand someone else who's very different from us, then that means we accept what they have to say as ours, and we have to give up a piece of ourselves. So helping people to understand that we can really hear each other and see each other without giving up any parts of ourselves, and that there's value in the synergy of bringing different people together to problem solve. In fact, it's really the only thing that's going to help. So I think getting people to buy into the idea that we really need to be engaged with those that are very different from us in lots of different ways, I think is the biggest challenge. We're very good at surrounding ourselves with people who talk like us, think like us, look like us. And that's comfortable and it feels good and it gives us a lot of validation sometimes, but it doesn't build community and it doesn't solve problems.
Yeah, I mean, the problems that we have today are not going to be solved. I think a smart guy said this, that we can't solve the problems with the same level of thinking that created those problems. I think that's an
exactly. That's another great quote.
That's an Einstein quote, right? Something like that.
I believe it is. Yeah.
So if what we're doing is not working, and you know, this applies to business as well as to life. If the approach that you're doing isn't working, you got to try a different approach. And that often means going outside your circle of immediate relationships and reaching out And as you say, understanding someone it's not a win-lose proposition. Well, if I understand you, then it means I have to give up a piece of myself. It's not acceptance, it's understanding. And most of all, I think, would you agree, most people aren't really looking for acceptance as much as they are respect.
Absolutely. I think we all just want to be seen and heard for who we really are and for what we can bring to the table. And I think we can disagree on things and still work together. I think one of the things that's made our team so successful is that the three partners, Karin and Julie, are my other two partners here at Roots and Wings. Those people who know us know we are incredibly different. We have lots of very difficult discussions about the world and about the business because we come from different places and we see the world very differently. But when we come to the same place on something, we know it's awesome and we know it's going to work for everyone that we support because of the hard work that came to that understanding. And I think when you've been in relationships like that, you know how hard it is, but you also know the results. So I think that's what we're trying to share is what are the skills you need to get to there, to be able to do that? Because it's better. It's just better.
Yeah, that's the synergy that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It equals 20 or 50 or 100. And that's the synergy of everyone contributing something. Everyone has value. That's the first thing. And then everyone has something to contribute. And it's taking all of that together and creating something that's greater than the sum of the parts. That would be a great Stephen Covey explanation of what you are doing.
Yeah, you're just throwing out all my favorites, Ralph. All my favorites.
I think we've been reading the same books, right? So, if the greatest challenge is getting people to differentiate, that understanding is not acceptance. We can understand one another. It doesn't mean that we have to agree and accept someone else's belief system, for example. But we do have to understand and respect someone else to be able to see their value. What can someone begin to do that would get them moving in the right direction, to get them more open-minded, or maybe a better way to phrase this is what are some of the basic skills that they need to develop, that you help people develop to get them where they need to be in terms of working and cooperating and having a new level of understanding and respect for others that may be very different?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I mean, there's many skills that help, but I think the starter skills are, first of all, you need to surround yourself with difference in real life, on social media. You need to have it around you so that you can begin to engage it, which can be a source of discomfort for people. So that's the first step. And then once you have it, you need to ask questions, great questions out of genuine curiosity. So not questions that are meant to entrap someone or put judgment on someone, but just out of genuine curiosity. And then you need to close your mouth and you need to really, really listen, and listen to understand, not to react. And then once you've kind of gotten comfortable with that, you also need to remember that this is a lifelong skill. I mean, those of us in the field are still working on it and still mess up. So you need to be patient with yourself and be not afraid to fail and say something stupid or ridiculous and apologize. And I think the other big thing that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle is you need to do some self-reflection. You really need to understand who you are and what your beliefs are and where they came from and why, understand what your biases are, and really be real about that, because it's hard to engage authentically in a conversation with someone who's really different and in a difficult way if you haven't done some of that inner work, if that makes sense.
That does. That makes total sense. We bring the baggage of our previous experiences, our previous beliefs, and not that our beliefs have to change, but as we grow and evolve and we make new distinctions, some of those beliefs and some of those values and some of those biases that we had as children don't fit. They don't work anymore. And we've got to have the courage to be able to grow and evolve. That's some of the skills that you're helping to teach youth of all ages, as well as parents, teachers, mentors, and people who have an impact on youth. tell us a little bit, because you've got training and workshops and various things. Tell us what you're working on right now that's got you really excited that might be useful to our listeners.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about, but hopefully people will get excited and then go check out our website. So I'll tell you the two that I'm most excited about. Our Teen Speak Out model is by far my favorite product. And again, Karin and Julie would say a different product was their favorite. But since I'm the one talking to you, I get to plug Teen Speak Out a little.
Yeah, you get to make the choice of which program to plug.
Right, I get dibs here. Yeah. So Teen Speak Out is our high school program, and it's a peer-led program. We train a very diverse cohort of student facilitators. We do some deep training with them around communication and facilitation and identity formation. And then they host for about 100 of their peers what's called a Teen Speak Out. And it moves 100 of their peers that are carefully selected to be a very clear cross-section of the school through a process of really looking at what's happening at the school in terms of social cohesion and collaborative problem solving, why it matters. Like, why can't we just get up and go to math class? Why do we need a connected community? And then, like, now what? Rather than just kind of complaining about what the adults aren't doing, as students, how can we build that community? And it's a powerful event. It creates space where students can really interact in a way that they don't normally get to interact in. And it's all student-led. So there's a groundswell. It creates a vehicle in the school for them to do other work apart from us, which is always great in terms of time and resources. So I think I'm super excited about that. And then the other thing that I love doing is we have an opening the door presentation that we do for adults. It's sort of a one-on-one about our roots and wings skills, and supports parents and teachers, community members, administrators on how to build these skills in themselves and how to share them with their young people. And it's short and it's interactive, and it's a great way for us to kind of touch base with communities in an easy way.
I really love that. I love the fact that you are not just teaching things, but you're training people, you're training students to go and then train others and teach others and lead others. You're actually putting into practice the things that you're talking about in a practical way. That's awesome.
For sure. And creating a vehicle and a foundation that the schools can run with. Again, we're talking about limited time, limited resources. If they can only do this with us, then that's not sustainable for them. So we want to give them some structure and foundation that they can run with.
What an amazing concept. I'm very impressed with your leadership and with what you're doing with Roots and Wings. It sounds like an incredible organization. How can our listeners find out more? Where do they go to connect with you?
Sure. Well, our website is www.rootsandwingstraining.com. So that'll give you everything that we have. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter under Roots Wings Team. So you can find us there with updates of what we're doing and great pictures of beautiful faces and all of our products.
Well, this has really been exceptionally inspirational. I have hope for tomorrow now that our kids are not going to be lost. Yeah, that somebody
They're
is
amazing. Yeah,
that somebody's there and there are people, gifted people like yourself and organizations out there supporting our youth. And so it's very, very encouraging. Any final thoughts or any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners before we close?
I think I'd like to just throw out two challenges, one of which being engage with others, even when, or especially when it's difficult. We can't stop engaging with each other, and take all those human judgments that we have and flip them and turn them into curiosity so that we can begin to move forward together, and help your kids do that. And come to us if you need support.
Wonderful. I've been speaking with Tabitha May-Tolub. She is the CEO and co-founder of Roots and Wings, an organization empowering youth and adults to strengthen their character and identity, connect with others through deeper communication, and effect change in their community. You can find out more at rootsandwingstraining.com. Tabitha, it has been a real pleasure to get to know you. Thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ralph. This was great chatting with you.
You've been listening to Rebelpreneur Radio with Ralph Brogdon. Download the show notes and much more at rebelpreneur.com.